Halloween might have gone, but any time of year is a good time of year to paint some zombies. And that's what I'm going to do today, guys. Stick with me. Now then folk, welcome back to another Forge of Solace paints. Like you saw in the intro, this time I'm going to be looking at how to paint some quick, fast, effective zombies, or in this case, poxwalkers. I saw this method a while back. I'm pretty certain it was Black Magic Crafts as a really good, fast, effective way to get on board with getting some reasonable looking zombies. So I'm going to give Black Magic Crafts method a quick go with some of my own tweaks because I've got a wodge of actual zombies that I need to get painted. One of the first things I painted when I got back into 40k was some poxwalkers, and I spent ages, absolute wodges of time, putting together something that I was really happy with. Now when I look back at those, I could have done better, but you know, I was only getting back into the painting side of things. And now I can paint faster, and I think I can paint to a much higher standard than that. But when you've got volumes of figures to paint, I want something fast and effective. So, shall we give it a go? As usual, I base coated everything in black, and then I gave it a grey base coat from the front, leaving black in the shadows, and then I gave it a quick spritz from above with white to give it that zenithal highlight. So here we go, let's get straight into this. First thing I'm going to do is shake my paint, you know how it is. And I'm going to grab Citadel's Plaguebearer Flesh, give it a good shake on the old agitator, and get my biggest brush. Let's just get on the model. I'm not too worried about being neat and tidy here, to be honest. I just get on all of the flesh, trying not to go over the same area. It's really important with the contrast paints that you don't tear the paint. It gives a really bad finish if you do. So as you can see here, I'm just taking my time, not going too slow, just getting it all over. Decent amount of paint on the brush, into all the nooks and crannies. Once it's on, job's a good one, leave it to the side to dry. I was painting these in batch as well, so I did 7 of them. So by the time I got to the 7th one, the first one was dry and I was ready to get on with the next step. And we know what we're doing now, so let's speed it up a little bit. Get into high gear, get the paint down on it, have a good look over the mini, make sure you're not missing any of the skin out at all. I did forget about the feet, but I came back and rectified that before I finished the section. Do note as well how I'm hitting the underside of the arms. Even though it's still got the black primer on there, it's important to make sure you do hit all of those, otherwise you get a little bit of an inconsistency in the skin tone. Just doesn't look great, and we're taking advantage of that free shading as well. There we're getting those pesky feet, hiding all the way down at the minute. Bad poxwalker. And we're done. Let's go on to the next section. I'm going to zip over the next part, since it's not related to the flesh, but all I'm doing is I'm painting the parts of the model that aren't going to be using the flesh technique that we're talking about. So in this case, I'm just painting it like the rest of my poxwalkers, so giving that nice industrial orange look, so it looks like I've had some type of boiler suit on, maybe some type of uniform. Just helps with the consistency. That's how I've done my previous ones. Feel free to do whatever you want, so they fit in with your army. And by the time I'd done all this on the 7 minis, I was right back to the first one and ready to get on with the next stage. If yours aren't quite dry, just give them a couple of minutes. 10 to 15 minutes is more than enough and you should be good and ready to crack on. The contrast paint can take a little bit longer to dry just because of how thick they do go on, so bear that in mind. Do make sure they're dry, otherwise things ain't going to be great. Everything should be dry now and we can crack on with the next step. So let's bust open Citadel Colour Skeleton Horde, And basically we're going to do what we did in the first step. We're going to lather it all over the areas of the skin. So all over everything we painted with Plague Bearer Flesh. We're just going to give it a coat of this. So what it's going to do is dull it down a little bit, take away some of that green tinge. It's still going to be there, makes it look a little bit more like rotten flesh without having to go in and start shading every little bit of the model. What I find as well is using this technique is we don't get the tea staining that you can get if you're using some of the washes. Struggling with the Citadel pot as usual. Who would have thought? The struggle is real, guys. Citadel, if you're out there, sort your pots please. Well, much like we did in the first step, we're just going to apply this really liberally. Just again, make sure that you don't tear the paint. If you don't know what that means is try and only go over one area at a time. Once you've gone over it, move on, leave it alone. Don't rub your brush backwards and forwards over the same area, just rubbing paint on and taking it off. You'll end up with an atrocious finish, a bad mini at the end of it, and you'll think the product's not working. And to be fair, they do. Once you apply them right, they're not too bad in certain instances. This is one of those. So making sure we hit all of the parts of the model. Once it's done, put it aside, move on to the next one. It's as easy as that, guys. I'm going to speed up a little bit now just to get through this. I don't want it being too long, it's going on long enough as it is. But essentially, once we've done this step, we're pretty much done. Just some simple highlighting and the detailing of the mini then. And the hard part's pretty much done now, guys. All I'm going to do now is get some thinned down Screaming Skull and base all the boils and bony protrusions kicking out of him. Try to be as neat as you can here. We don't want to go over on the skin that we've just painted. But if you do go over, don't worry about it, we can cover it up with some blood or something. At the end of the day, zombies, they're not the neatest of things. Neither are poxwalkers for that matter. So you don't have to paint every single one of the boils, spots and bumps on this, but I'm kind of anal about it, so I do like to do that. I think it adds a little bit something special to them. It stops them just being generic horde troops. Also, I find it quite therapeutic, so whatever floats your boat, do what you need to do. I tend to use 2 thin coats just to get a nice even base layer over this. Mix the yellow or whatever colour you want to make your boils really, really pop. See what I did there? Popping boils. Ah, we're using Screaming Skull again. Did you think we'd done? Got ya, we're not. This time what we're going to do is use it to dry brush over the skin, and in my case I'm going to use it to dry brush over the trousers as well, or any other parts of the uniform. In fact, I'm going to use it on the base as well, so the entire mini for me. Now if you've not painted the overalls or whatever on your zombie orange, or a colour you can get away with using Screaming Skull to highlight, obviously just hit the skin. But in my case, I'm going all in on it. It's really going to help, and I can dull it down later with a wash on the trousers. It's not a problem. So, making sure I work all the paint off my brush. You should know how to dry brush by now. If you don't, there's a lot of tutorials out there. Check out my boy Dat Shoota, link in the description. And all we're going to do is dry brush in a downwards motion for the most part. Like the light's coming down, it's going to catch those raised edges and give it that illusion of highlighting. Now, I wouldn't dry brush all my army like this, but for rank and file horde troops that you just want to get on the table, I'm more than happy to do this, especially over these contrast paints. It does a really, really good job of getting things tabletop standard in almost no time. we are going to come back in afterwards and clean it up, just get the details that we want on there. So paint the boils, paint the horns, and then that's it, we're pretty much done. So I'll speed this up a little bit, get through the dry brushing, and we'll get on to the final finishing touches and see what we've got at the end. Okay, so let's finish off the details. So, any of the boils or pox on there, I'm just going to hit them with a thin layer of Citadel Shade Cassandra Yellow. For the horns and the bony protrusions, I'm going to use, again, Citadel Shade Null Noil. Several layers of this, going from light to dark, so just let each layer dry, and as you would with the glazing, just put another layer on, getting darker and darker and darker towards the tips. On the trousers, the orange part, and anything else that you might have done brown, at the base of the horns, I'm using a little bit of Citadel's Igrax Earthshade, just to give them a little bit of variation in there. It really helps with the trousers. And then around the pox, boils, and any scars or anything like that, I'm using a combination of Citadel's Druchii Violet and Citadel's Carroburg Crimson, just to make some bruised, sore kind of looking skin. I think it just really adds another little bit of zombiness to them. Also, you can put some blood effect around there if you want. Absolutely up to you. And with that, it's done. Just paint your rim, whatever colour it is that you want to do that for the rest of your army, and we're done. It's a pretty fast technique, I think. Let's see what we think once they're off the paint bench and we get them into the photo booth. And we're done. I think they turned out alright. I'm pretty happy with it overall. I think I can smash through the skin tones at least in a pretty good time. Getting the details done, like I say, if you've got a lot of these to do, you're just going to do them batch style, and they're all going to look at least a little bit similar. You want that consistency. It looks better on the tabletop. For me anyway, at least it does. So that's what I'm going to go for. But I think overall, how these have turned out, I'm really happy with it. I mean, it's not a lot of time per minute. And getting those two contrast paints working together really does save a lot of time. And with a little bit of dry brushing, I think definitely the results are more than passable for tabletop quality. Maybe a little bit higher, depending on what you're going for. Zombies, nurgle, that kind of thing. It's always quite forgiving anyway in terms of paint schemes, so I'm not going to beat myself up too much about it. So, what do you guys think? Have you got any faster methods for painting zombies / poxwalkers? I'd be really interested to know if you do. Like I say, I do have a wodge of zombies coming up that I really want to paint fast and get gaming with. So, any advice you could give me? Comments down below, please. Well, that's it for another video. So, if you did get some value for this, please do leave me a comment down below. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down if you want. I absolutely don't mind. What I want to do is make high quality content and give something back to the community that I've got so much from. Well, that's it for this time, folks. So remember, if you're going to do crap, make sure it's plastic. See ya.